I kept thinking about doing this sutta, but this sutta is actually very difficult. It's actually quite deep and hard. And I didn't think that I was, prepared to do this. But for the last 2 weeks, it has been hanging on my mind all the time. Ratana Sutta, Ratana Sutta, and Ratana Sutta. So eventually on Friday, I said, no, I have to do this. Whether I will do a good job or not, I'll have to do this. So when we read this through, I think you will actually agree with me that it is actually a good time, or the right time, or the appropriate time to do this sutta. So I think the link was being sent out to most of you, if you are on our email list. So you should be prepared to have this sutta right in front of you. If you're not prepared, I have made slides. I hope that you will be able to see it on the screen, or your screen, okay? So this sutta is called Ratana Sutta. Ratana means jewel. So this whole English translation of this sutta is called the Jewel Discourse. Okay, Jewel Discourse. So let us start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. So let us all read together, all right? The Ratana Sutta. The city of Vesali was afflicted by a famine, causing death, especially to the poor folk. Due to the presence of decaying corpses, the evil spirits began to haunt the city. This was followed by a pestilence. Plagued by these three fears of famine, non-human beings, and pestilence, the citizens sought the help of the Buddha, who was then living at Rajagala. Followed by a large number of monks, including the Venerable Ananda, his attendant disciple, the Buddha came to the city of Vesali. With the arrival of the Master, there were torrential rains which swept away the petrifying corpse. The atmosphere became purified. The city was clean. Thereupon, the Buddha delivered this jewel discourse, Ratana Sutta, to the Venerable Ananda, and gave him instructions as to how he should tour the city, with the Lechavali citizens reciting the discourse as a mark of protection to the people of Vesali. The Venerable Ananda followed the instructions and sprinkled the sanctified water from the Buddha's own alms bowl. As a consequence, the evil spirits were exorcised. The pestilence subsided. Thereafter, the Venerable Ananda returned with the citizens of Vesali to the public hall where the Buddha and his disciples had assembled awaiting his arrival. There, the Buddha recited the same jewel discourse to the gathering. Whatever beings, non-humans, are assembled here, terrestrial or celestial, may they all have peace of mind, and may they listen attentively to these words. O beings, listen closely. May you all radiate loving kindness to those human beings who, by day and night, bring offerings to you, offer merit to you, wherefore protect them with the diligence. Whatever treasure there be, either here or in the world beyond, whatever precious jewel there be in the heavenly worlds, there is none comparable with the Tathagata, the perfect one. This precious jewel is in the Buddha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. The cessation, that detachment, that deathlessness, Nibbana, supreme, the calm and collected Sakyan sage, the Buddha, had realized. There is not comparable to this Nibbana, Dhamma. This precious jewel is in the Dhamma. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. 4 ways of describing the Nibbana. The Supreme Buddha extolled a path of purity, the Noble Eightfold Path, calling it the path which unfailingly brings concentration. There is not comparable to this concentration. This precious jewel is the Dhamma. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. The 8 persons extolled by virtuous men constitute 4 pairs. They are the disciples of the Buddha and are worthy of offerings. Gifts given to them yield rich results. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. With a steadfast mind and applying themselves well in the dispensation of the Buddha Gautama, free from defilements, they have attained to that which should be attained, arahantship, encountering the deathless. They enjoy the peace of Nibbana freely obtained. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. A supposed deep planted in the earth stands unshaken by the winds from the 4 quarters. So too, I declare, is the righteous man who comprehends with wisdom the noble truths. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. Those who realize the noble truths, well taught by him who is profound in wisdom, the Buddha, even though they may be exceedingly heedless, they will not take an 8th existence in the realm of sense spheres. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. With his gaining of insight, he abandons 3 states of mind, namely self-illusion, doubt, and indulgence in meaningless rites and rituals, should there be any. He is also fully freed from the 4 states of war, and therefore incapable of committing the 6 major wrongdoings. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. Any evil action he may still do by deed, word, or thought, he is capable of concealing it, since it has been proclaimed that such concealing is impossible for one who has seen the path of Nibbana. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. As the woodland groves, though in the early heat of the summer month, are crowned with blossoming flowers, even so is the sublime Dhamma leading to the calm of Nibbana, which is taught by the Buddha for the highest good. This precious jewel is the Buddha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. The peerless, excellent one, the Buddha, the knower of Nibbana, the giver of Nibbana, the bringer of the noble truth, taught the excellent Dhamma. This precious jewel is the Dhamma. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. Their past karma is spent, their new karma no more arises. Their mind to future becoming the attached is unattached. The germ of rebirth consciousness has died. They have no more desire for reliving. Those wise men fade out of existence as the flame of this lamp which has just faded away. This precious jewel is the Sangha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. Whatever beings, non-humans, are assembled here, terrestrial or celestial, come, let us salute the Buddha, the Tathagata, the Perfect One, honored by gods and men, may there be happiness. Whatever beings are assembled here, terrestrial or celestial, come, let us salute the perfect Dhamma, honored by gods and men, may there be happiness. Whatever beings are assembled here, terrestrial or celestial, come, let us salute the perfect Sangha, honored by gods and men, may there be happiness. The Ratana Sutta. The English translation is called the Jewel Discourse. So, the Ratana Sutta, of course, it was taught, it was actually spoken by the Buddha. And who said it? Of course, it was the Buddha. This is a different slide than yours because I actually changed it at the end. Okay? And then, when did he talk about this? When did he teach this? And where? And why? Why did I decide to do the Ratana Sutta? And I think you read through this, I think you saw my intention. Did you see my intention? Nobody? Say hello. Did you see my intention of why did I bring up this sutta? Actually, stop teaching in the Buddha's words and go into this sutta. Did you see my intention? Yeah. So why? Laurie. Unmute Laurie, please. You have to turn up the volume. Turn it up, please. Say again, Laurie. No, can't hear it. You have to find the speaker. Try again, Laurie. No, Laurie, did you have your mic on? Maybe you type in the answer. Maybe you type in the reply. Can't hear. Okay. Sorry, Laurie. Maybe you type in the... No, she can't. Disable the chat room. Why did you use a different program? You have to choose a speaker. It's always a hiccup, Anyway, okay. So wait until they can do it. Okay, so who said this? The Buddha talked about this. The Buddha said this. And when and where and why. So at that moment, at the Buddha's time, and in India, there are many, many little kingdoms. And at that time, one of the strongest kingdom was Magadha, and the city, and the king is King Bimbisara. Bimbisara Panpe Solawang. Okay, Bimbisara. And Bimbisara is actually a very devoted student or disciple of the Buddha. And at that time, the Buddha was staying at Rajagaha, which is a big city in Madhya. So, and then next to this place, Madhya, there was a very small kingdom. The small kingdom called Vajji, V-A-J-J-I, Vajji. And Vajji it's a very, very was a very, very prosperous little kingdom, and the people there are very affluent. But this little kingdom actually suffered a few years of famine because there was no rain. And then the capital city of Vaji is called Vesali. You actually read it from here, from the sutta. It's called Vesali. And this Vesali, this place, for a few years there was no rain. There was a really, really bad drought. Without rain, then there was no produce, right? No produce, no vegetables. So without vegetables, there was famine, hunger, a lot of hunger. And a lot of people actually died. And every day there were people who actually died from the famine. And at that time, Vaji, or Vesali, the city, actually did not have any way to deal with so many dead bodies within one day. And you know, in the old ancient Indian tradition, they actually take the dead body to the wood pile to burn them, right? But because there were so many deaths that they really could not manage, though dead bodies were everywhere. So you actually read it from the little introduction there. So that body, the corpse, the dead bodies were everywhere in this little city, Vesali. And according to the Pali commentary, because of so many dead bodies, and dead bodies have, corpses have very different energy than we live human beings. So they attract a lot of evil energy. And you could call them spirits or hungry ghosts. And so there was a famine, and there was these evil spirits, and because of the degradation of these bodies, the bodies were decaying, right? So then there come a time that there were a lot of bacterial, or in the old days they probably didn't know virus, but I'm sure that they had viral infection already in those days. So a lot of infections being spread. So then the whole city, actually there was something like a plague. Okay, so there was three things happening at the same time: famine, invasion by evil spirits, and then a plague. And even though this little city was very prosperous at that time, but it was being hit by these three, we call, whether it's human or natural disasters, the little city could not take it. So the king at that time thought we needed to seek help. At that time in India, there were 6 very, very famous teachers. And they thought, well, we should go and seek help from these teachers and ask them to come and bless and purify this place. So people have different idea. And then the Buddha's name also came up. And eventually they thought, well, the Buddha, the Gautama the Buddha, was very wise, is very wise, and he is very compassionate, and he has tremendous, great supernatural power. And I think we should actually invite him to come. So they decided eventually, they reached a consensus that they're going to actually invite the Buddha to come. But they thought, Well, since Bimbisara, the king Bimbisara, is a very devoted disciple of the Buddha, and he probably is serving the Buddha, maybe we should actually go and ask the king to invite the Buddha to come rather than us going to the Buddha. You know, if you have somebody knowing that person well, you probably think of, going to that somebody first rather than going to the person right away, because you may be, turned down, right? The invitation may be turned down. So the king in Vaji actually sent two persons or two attendants to go and to King Bimbisara and say, "Oh, king, could you please invite the Buddha on behalf of us to go to Vaji Vesali to help us to deal with this big issue that we have." But very strangely, King Bimbisara said, "I think you should actually invite the Buddha yourself." Why? Why do you think King Bimbisara doesn't want to pass the message or the invitation on, but yet he asked the two attendants, "You should go and actually invite the Buddha yourself"? Put your hand up. Maria said, offered appeared to be more genuine. If you want to invite people to tea, you would call them, right? You won't say to person A, "Could you please go and tell person B to come to tea with me?" Right? You won't say that because it's respect and dignity and genuine, right? So one has, especially one is actually inviting somebody who is so wise, and he's the wisest person of all human beings. And we are nothing to compare to him in wisdom and compassion. So we need to respect that. And we need to be genuine and authentic. And because he was such a sage and saint, right? So we needed to respect that. So the two attendants said, "Okay." Then they went to actually invite the Buddha. And the Buddha actually, Buddha already knew that they were coming. And Buddha agreed. So the two attendants went back to Vaji or Vesali to inform the king that the Buddha will come. But King Bimbisara has told us that he has to prepare the road to Vesali before the Buddha will start off his journey. Because they don't have any connection at that time, so the road to that place is really not very good. But anyway, Bimbisara told the Buddha, I will fix the road so that Buddha you can travel safely. So they spent a few days. And to fix the road, and then the king Bimbisara actually accompanied the Buddha. And Vaji or Vesali, the city of Vaji, actually is on the other bank of the Ganges River. Okay, so Magadha or Rajaga, where Buddha actually came from at that time, was on this side of the Ganges River, and then Vaji was on the other side. So we know that the Ganges River is very wide, right? And it says that in the text, or in the commentary, it says that the Ganges River is, I can't remember, I think it's three jhana wide and 5 jhana long, a distance from Rajaga. So 1 jhana, remember that was long time ago. We talked about how many miles in 1 jhana. Anybody remember? Nobody. Okay. So, okay. But I have talked about that before. You better say yes. Okay. So, jhana 1 jhana is, there are actually big, medium, or small. Okay. So here is talking about small jhana. So small jhana is 16 miles. 16 miles. Okay. But there are in different commentaries, there are actually different distances. But in the ancient, or I could say not ancient, in the historical record of Master Xuanzang, he said it's 1 jhana is 16 miles. So 16 miles is about 20 kilometers. Yeah, 20 or 20 plus kilometers. So they traveled through, and then when they reached to the place where the Buddha and his entourage, the whole group of monks together with Venerable Ananda, they were going to cross the river. And Bimbisara king, you know what he did when he crossed the river? When actually the Buddha was crossing the river? How he actually sent the Buddha or saw the Buddha off to Vaji? The Buddha actually got onto the boat. You know, in the old days they had the boat. The Buddha and the entourage of monks and Venerable Ananda, they actually got onto the boat. But the king didn't go. The king didn't go with them. The king actually walked into the river. Walked into the river until the water is to his chest, and then he stopped. And he saw his teacher off like that. Would we have that much of respect and confidence to see our teacher off like that? No, we don't even wave goodbye to our teacher. Right? So, and then the King Bimbisara said to the Buddha, Buddha, I will be waiting here on this side of the bank of Ganges until you return. You see, that kind of respect a student actually gives to the teacher. And the Buddha says, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sanjai, sanjai, sanjai. So, when the Buddha was traveling through through the Ganges, rain started to come. And then the whole city, the whole Vaja or the whole little kingdom became clean because the torrential rain actually washed away many of the dead bodies into the river and cleaned up that whole place. And when the Buddha arrived to the gate of Vaji, of Vasali, the city of Vasali, and the Buddha told Ananda, actually the Buddha taught Ananda this sutta. He repeated this sutta, the Ratana Sutta, to Ananda and told Ananda, you remember this, and now you take my bowl, the Buddha's alms bowl, you take my bowl, you fill it with water, and you go around this whole city. In the ancient days, all the little cities are surrounded by walls and have a gate. So Ananda, you should go around this city, tour around this city, and use my bowl and sprinkle the water while reciting the sutta. And Ananda, of course, did what the Buddha actually told him. And when the Buddha actually arrived they opened up the gate and actually arrived inside and sat down in the big hall where they actually arranged to receive the Buddha. And Ananda returned after the Buddha actually came back and came and sat down. And Ananda returned. And then the Buddha actually taught the audience this sutta, the Ratana Sutta. Okay, so now unmute Laurie, please. And why, Laurie, why did you think that? What is my intention of doing this sutta at this time?
I think it was because of what's happening around the world with the virus and how people are reacting to it.
Yes, yes. And yeah, thank you. And how the people are reacting, and also because it's really, if it is happening in the other parts of the world, it doesn't seem to be such a big problem for us because we are so distant, right? And it doesn't really affect us personally. But now it's here. It's here in North America. So that is, it's not that I don't have the compassion for people elsewhere in Hong Kong or in China at that time. Why didn't I teach the Ratana Sutta? I just don't know why. It just didn't occur to me, because at that time I always reminded students to do metta bhavana, qi samma, and at that time I thought it was sufficient. I didn't know. But it just came to my mind just in the last couple of weeks. It just, this sutta actually came to my mind all the time, until actually I decided to teach, and it's gone. So bear with me if I really didn't do a good job this time, but I think we could actually all learn from this. So from the introduction, we actually learned that actually Buddha, out of compassion, went to such an affected place to help those people. And the sutta actually flourished from 2,600 years all the way to now. And we can actually see famine, illnesses, disasters happens all the time, and it's a cycle, constantly coming back. It doesn't mean that at that time in Buddha's day there was a sage and there won't be any famine, there won't be any pestilence, there won't be any disaster or what natural or created disasters. There were. And same as nowadays, there are. So the Dhamma was applicable at that time, and so is today, is applicable in this modern time, in our era. Okay, so for actually sharing the Ratana Sutta, I actually using a lot of commentaries from a few bhikkhus. One of them is Bhikkhu Bodhi, and also Venerable Sandagavisakha and Venerable Dhamma Sutta. Okay, and a few other Chinese monks and venerables. So I wanted to quote them because I needed to address this, because otherwise I'll be stealing Dhamma from them. So I don't want that. Okay, so Ratana Sutta. Well, I'm still not going into the verses yet. So in the Theravadan tradition, can you see clearly from home the screen? Good? Okay. These two pictures are taken from Po Lam. Okay, and so in the Theravadan tradition, the Ratana Sutta actually is a sutta for blessings, to bring on blessings. And you can see from the verse 1 here, it says, whatever beings are assembled here, terrestrial or celestial. No, from verse 3, this precious jewel is the Buddha. By this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. So that is verse 3. So it says here, may there be happiness. Bhikkhu Bodhi, actually, he retranslated this. He said, may there be safety, may there be security, and may there be good fortune. And not just happiness. The most important, you can actually contemplate or reflect back on the introduction. It's not just happiness that these people from Vaji or Visala was seeking. They were seeking safety. They were seeking security, not just happiness. And happiness comes actually after feeling safe and being secure, right? So I prefer Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation of the last verse, of the last sentence of each verse. I will talk about that, but I want to bring it up now. So the Ratana Sutta actually is a very common sutta that the Theravadan tradition use for blessings, because it talks about the jewel, the triple jewels, the jewel of the Buddha, the jewel of the Dhamma, the jewel of the Sangha. And because of such a precious jewel, then if one respects, if one listens, if one practices accordingly to cultivate the similar qualities of the Buddha, of the Dhamma, and of the Sangha, one will naturally become or feel safe, one will feel being secured, or one will feel being very fortunate, and thereby one will feel happy, right? So that's natural. It comes naturally. So you can actually see from each line of this sutta, it actually carries a very, very deep meaning. Very deep meaning. And these meanings and this sutta, even though we read it out loud, we remember when we read this sutta or any sutta, the way we read it is actually very, very crucial, very important. Why is that? Because if we are just reading it words by words and not paying attention, not hearing what we are reading, that means our mind is not there. It's only the eye seeing it, the mouth pronouncing the word. But if we read it and we hear, and we at that time catch 1, 2 words or one phrase or 2 phrases, and it boom, go into our heart, mind, and that is precious. And that is the jewel of the Dhamma, hitting you at your deepest place. And then there, because it hits you so strong, that's why it says, by this asseveration of the truth, may there be happiness. You will naturally develop, you will naturally have this confidence, you will naturally have this demeanor and hopefully some wisdom derived from hearing, pronouncing, and really hearing it and pronouncing it with the heart. you will actually attain those benefits. So it's not just mere pronouncing the words or reading the verses. It's really, you need to actually listen very, very carefully. And if you are sort of pronouncing them, but part of your mind has actually wandered off, and then you come back and you read it again, and actually that is not very, very fruitful. Okay? And at a time like this, nowadays, you're at home, I am here, we are doing a Zoom teaching. Why are we doing a Zoom teaching rather than you coming here? Because we are asked by our government to stay home, to protect ourselves, to protect others, to protect the community. Because the less we come into contact, the less we will actually spread the virus. But because we are not used to staying home for such a long time, especially you, householder, you're so used to go out, merry-go-round, right? I go to Superstore today, and I go to Wendy tomorrow, and I go to Cottonwood Mall tomorrow or next day, or go to the river the next day, whatever, because we're so used of extroverting, physically or verbally. And now we lock ourselves in our little condo or house. We are very blessed to be actually living in Canada with such good air and so much space. But yet, our mental stability is being challenged by our craving, by our impatience, by our so-called loneliness. But these are all the challenges that we actually arouse from our own selves, for our own selves. It doesn't come from outside. It comes from here. Because there is a certain level of fear and of distraction in our mind that actually become challenges. Okay? So when we face situations like this with fear, with impatience, with anger, or with any emotion, I tell you, at that moment, that evil spirit, or evil energy, has already started attacking you. Evil energy doesn't just come from outside, it comes from within. So, the situation that we are facing now, we are scared, we are bored, we are angry with all these emotions. How are we going to help change ourselves in a situation like this? So we need to actually seek protection. Seek protection from whom? The biggest protection is actually from our own mind. The biggest protection. But because we are such weak beings, we are very weak. So we need to seek protection, or we need to seek reminders, or our minds constantly need to be reminded. Something is very precious out there. We need to remember that. And we need to be reminded of. And so, we want to recite this, and we want to study this, and we want to keep this sutta close to heart so that we don't forget it. And when we don't forget it, there is protection. There is protection. because we actually created a channel, a mental channel from here to the outside. And if we actually so patient and so grateful and so accepting and so mindful and so balanced, this channel will naturally be connected to the similar energies. And who have the same similar energies? All the saints and sages that are actually being talked about here. The arahats, the 4 pairs, the 8 persons, and the Buddha, the Tathagata. It's all here. The Dhamma, the Sangha. It's all here. Okay? So when we understand the recitation is not merely a rite and ritual, it's helping us to open up the mind and to develop certain qualities of the mind so that we actually channel it to the right place, to the right to the right place, to the right people, to the right person, to the right saints and sages. Okay? So it's not merely just a recitation. And remember, if it is just merely a recitation, it's merely a rite or merely a ritual, and it's not going to help. Remember, I want to remind the Chinese people. The Chinese are very, very fond of recitation and very used to recitation. They keep reciting sutta all the time, every day. But there is no heart in it. There is no connection. There is no channel in there. It's just a formality. And this channel is stuck, is closed, the gate is closed. Okay? So remember, it is actually very, very important to be opened and open up and being connected. Connected not with evil spirit, not with evil energy, but with the jewels of the jewels. You see? It's very different. So, and I hope that, after reading this sutta, after studying this sutta, we won't, when we are challenged with similar situation like this, or this, what do you call that? The stay-home advice is going to be extended. We won't sit there and start crying and throwing a tantrum and everything. We won't do that, because we know it's a collected karma that we are facing right now. And for individuals, ourselves, we need to do our part. And if everyone is doing their own part in a wholesome, mindful, jewel-like way, and I'm sure we can actually overcome a lot of difficulties. Okay? So this, I hardly go into the content yet, and it's just the introduction. So the sutta actually allows us to really understand the wonderful qualities of the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And the whole sutta is actually talking about the virtues, the special qualities, and the wisdom of these 3 jewels. And to know all these qualities actually and be inspired by them, it enhances our confidence. It brings on a strong faith, not a blind faith, a strong faith, and allow us to actually be grateful and to appreciate the values of the triple jewels, the triple gems. Because in order to enhance our faith and confidence, we really need to know where the qualities of the jewels are going to lead us. If the qualities of the jewels are not going to lead us into liberation or the decrease of sufferings, it's not going to help us. But through studying this sutta, we will have an understanding. These jewels, the qualities of these jewels, are going to bring such a value to our life, or add such a value to our life. And also inspire us to actually strive through every hurdle, every obstacle that we might encounter in today or in the future. And despite the difficulties, and we know that we will be able to, at the end of the sutta, it says, we will be able to eradicate the old ones and not multiply the new ones. Okay? So that is actually very, very important. Is eradicate, abolish the old karma and not multiply or not create any more new karma. So this whole Ratana Sutta, remember, is not merely for recitation. You think Ananda goes around the city of Vasali and recite the sutta? You try to go around Chilliwack and recite the sutta and see if the viral will, well, Chilliwack still hasn't been infected, but why don't we try to go around Vancouver and recite this and see if the virus will go down? I don't think it will, because we haven't got the heart of the heart of Ananda and the heart of the whole entourage of the monks, and most of all, that immense compassion and wisdom of the Buddha. We don't have that. But don't lose the confidence. We could be there one day. So, starting from today, I'm giving you, everybody at home, a homework. Every day, print this out or put that into your cell phone. And if you live in a condo, walk around your condo and read this sutta at least once every day. If you live in a house and you go out and go around your house and read this sutta every day, at the end, and dedicate the merits to all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. And may all beings be free of sufferings. Okay? That's the introduction. Anybody would like to say anything? Maria, unmute her, please.
I just wanted to say that was really special, and
why is it special, Maria?
I think because of the times, and I think we're all affected.
Yeah.
I have no issues with staying at home. I'm a recluse anyway, but we all have, social media has its good points and its bad points.
Yeah.
And being on social media, like, you are constantly bombarded with what's going on in other parts of the world, and it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
So to be given something, a tool.
Yes.
Be able to do something.
Exactly.
There's a lot of meaning behind that, and I thank you for your passion when you put this together. It was quite a very moving Dhamma talk tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Laurie. Go ahead, Laurie.
I patiently teaching it to us. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Catherine. Yeah. Catherine, go ahead.
I'm really grateful to you in time of this crisis. If you, I mean, you, I'm grateful enough that you will introduce to us this sutta, so we can recite it, so to get some protection in time of this plague or the evil spirit, right? So even though it might not be just when I recite it, then everything, will be peaceful. But at least we try to help ourselves to have a good channel.
Exactly.
Guidance to the space.
Yes.
And just remembering the quality of the three
Jules.
triple truth.
Yeah.
True. And also, will it be possible that we get a PDF? Because we did not get the email, because this is not my second time for the English class. So is it possible that
yes, I
you
was
send us?
sure.
Yeah, we can recite it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay. San Francisco. Yeah. Well, send it to the San Francisco group. Mali, you have something to say? Mali, and please.
Thank you, Sifu, for doing this Ratana Sutta today. It has been a bit
Who is that?
overwhelming
Where?
when you see so much information on social media, as
Yeah.
was already mentioned. And it's really nice to be here for an hour or two here, listening to this calming information. And I think I really appreciate the time that you spent with us and preparing for this.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I could spend actually more time with everyone. So as you are aware, that actually I teach now three nights a week. So if you don't mind listening to Chinese instructions for meditation, Wednesday night we have 6:30 starting for meditation, and Friday is 6 o'clock meditation. So you can stay on meditation together with us on Zoom also. On those 2 days, so at least through a long day, at least you've got a 40 minutes or 45 minutes of a downtime to actually settle the mind down a little bit more. Okay, if you don't mind listening to Chinese on those 2 days, it really doesn't matter. You just meditate, right? You just like meditate on the sound. I think Laurie and Versha actually went on to those 2 days. And ever do with the Chinese, so they told me that it's really good to be able to actually knowing that there is a group out there, and we are all meditating at the same time and doing the same wonderful wholesome thing at the same time. Okay. Okay. Now we dedicate our merits. May these blessings extend to all, that we with all the other living beings together will attain the Buddha way. May we wish more and more people will encounter the words of the Buddha, study them, practice them, and help themselves to liberate from their own entanglements and be ultimately free, happy, and peaceful.